Today's news covers a critical vote in the U.S. Senate over military action in Iran, a deadly heat wave impacting Europe, and a landmark housing bill passed in Congress. Each of these stories has significant global implications. Here are today's top 10 stories you need to know. The progressive movement within the Democratic Party is gaining significant momentum as left-wing candidates continue to secure victories in primary elections. This shift reflects a broader desire among voters for transformative policies aimed at addressing systemic inequalities. Political analysts are keeping a close eye on these developments as they could reshape the party's platform ahead of the national elections. The success of progressive candidates has energized grassroots movements and highlighted the importance of community engagement in the electoral process. As we look ahead, the challenge will be for these candidates to translate their electoral success into legislative achievements that resonate with a diverse electorate. The implications for the future of American politics are profound, and the outcomes of these elections could set the tone for years to come. Europe is currently grappling with record-high temperatures as a relentless heat wave sweeps across the continent. Countries such as Spain and Italy have reported temperatures soaring above 40 degrees Celsius, prompting widespread alarm. This extreme weather phenomenon is not merely a fleeting event. It is a stark reminder of the escalating impacts of climate change. The consequences are already palpable, with increased energy demands leading to potential power outages and strain on infrastructure. Authorities are urging citizens to remain indoors during peak hours and prioritize hydration as public health risks rise. The agricultural sector is particularly vulnerable, with farmers voicing concerns over crop viability amid prolonged heat stress. As this crisis unfolds, the implications for climate resilience and adaptation strategies become increasingly urgent. Policymakers are being called upon to implement immediate measures to address the heat crisis, with an emphasis on sustainable solutions that protect public health and the environment. The ongoing housing crisis in the United States has reached a critical point, prompting lawmakers to acknowledge the urgent need for substantial reform. Over the past decade, rising rents and skyrocketing home prices have drastically outstripped wage growth, leading to increased homelessness and housing insecurity for millions. The recent legislative efforts to address these pressing concerns are viewed as a pivotal moment in U.S. housing policy. Advocates are pushing for comprehensive solutions, including increased funding for affordable housing initiatives and stronger tenant protections to safeguard vulnerable populations. The implications of these discussions extend beyond mere economics, touching on issues of social equity and justice, as housing instability disproportionately affects marginalized communities. As more Americans find themselves struggling to secure stable housing, the urgency for effective policy action becomes increasingly apparent. The upcoming months will be crucial as lawmakers work diligently to implement meaningful changes with the hope of alleviating the housing burden on millions and fostering a more equitable society. Cities across Europe are declaring heat emergencies as temperatures soar to unprecedented levels, reaching up to 45 degrees Celsius in some regions. Health officials are urgently advising residents to take necessary precautions to avoid heat-related illnesses, particularly vulnerable populations like the elderly and those with pre-existing health conditions. The strain on health services is palpable, with hospitals reporting a significant increase in cases of heat stroke and dehydration. Urban areas are especially hard hit, where the phenomenon of heat islands exacerbates the situation, causing temperatures to rise even higher than surrounding rural areas. Authorities are swiftly implementing measures such as opening cooling centers, extending public transport hours, and providing free water distribution to assist those most at risk. As this relentless heatwave persists, the pressure on local governments to manage the crisis effectively is escalating. Experts warn that such extreme weather events could become more frequent due to climate change, prompting calls for immediate and long-term strategies to adapt urban infrastructure. Local communities must prepare for future heat challenges. As tensions in the Middle East continue to rise, the U.S. Senate is preparing for another vote on war powers concerning the ongoing conflict with Iran. This marks the 10th time lawmakers will address military action in this volatile region. The situation remains precarious, with ongoing military engagements and diplomatic tensions escalating between the U.S. and Iran. The Senate's repeated attempts to rein in military actions underscore the growing unease among lawmakers regarding the administration's approach. Observers are keenly aware that any escalation could lead to broader regional conflicts, potentially involving other nations. The international community is watching closely, as further U.S. military action could destabilize an already fragile geopolitical landscape. As the Senate prepares for this crucial vote, the ramifications of their decision could have lasting effects on U.S. foreign policy and military strategy in the Middle East. The stakes are high, and the outcomes uncertain as Congress grapples with its role in matters of war. The recent primary elections in New York have resulted in significant wins for left-wing candidates, further solidifying the progressive movement within the Democratic Party. This election cycle has been marked by an enthusiastic voter turnout, reflecting a growing desire for change among constituents. Analysts suggest that these results could signal a shift in the political landscape, with progressive policies gaining traction and potentially influencing the Democratic platform ahead of the upcoming national elections. The implications of these victories extend beyond New York, as similar trends are being observed in other states. This could lead to a more unified progressive agenda that resonates with a broader base of voters. As we look ahead, the focus will be on how these newly elected officials will navigate their legislative priorities and whether they can effectively challenge the status quo within the party. The energy from this primary season is expected to shape the political discourse leading up to the general elections. In a historic legislative move, the U.S. Congress has passed a landmark housing bill aimed at addressing the ongoing affordable housing crisis. This comprehensive bill includes provisions for increased funding for public housing, incentives for affordable housing development, and measures to combat homelessness. The bill comes in response to a nationwide surge in housing costs, which have skyrocketed in recent years, outpacing wage growth for millions of Americans. Lawmakers from both parties have emphasized the necessity of this bill, highlighting the urgent need to address the disparities that leave many families struggling to secure stable housing. Advocates for housing reform have lauded the passage of this bill, noting its potential to transform communities and uplift the most vulnerable populations, including low-income families and individuals experiencing homelessness. As the bill progresses to the President for signature, the focus will shift to its implementation and the allocation of funds to local governments. The success of this legislation will be pivotal, as it could serve as a model for future housing policies and inspire similar initiatives aimed at ensuring housing equity across the nation. A severe heat wave is currently gripping much of Europe, leading to health warnings and significant disruptions. Authorities across several countries, including France, Spain, and Italy, have issued alerts as temperatures soar to record levels, with some regions experiencing highs above 40 degrees Celsius. This extreme weather is not just a health crisis. Emergency services report increased hospital admissions due to heat-related illnesses like heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Economically, the agricultural sector faces dire consequences, with farmers warning of potential crop failures that could worsen food shortages and drive up prices. This situation underscores the urgent realities of climate change, which many scientists predict will increase the frequency and severity of such weather events. Governments are scrambling to implement protective measures for vulnerable populations, including opening cooling centers, extending public transport hours, and providing resources for those without air conditioning. As this heat wave continues, experts stress the need for immediate action and long-term strategies to address public health and food security challenges. With rising temperatures becoming the new normal, policymakers must prioritize comprehensive climate policies to mitigate the impacts of extreme weather and safeguard future generations from similar crises. The pressing question remains, how will Europe adapt to this escalating climate threat? In a historic move, the U.S. Senate has voted to pass a war powers resolution aimed at blocking any further military action against Iran. This significant bipartisan effort seeks to restrain President Donald Trump's administration from escalating military conflict in the already volatile region. The resolution, which previously cleared the House, directs the president to withdraw U.S. forces from hostilities against Iran unless Congress provides explicit approval. Lawmakers have expressed growing concerns over the administration's approach to military engagement, which many argue lacks transparency and proper congressional oversight. This vote comes amid heightened tensions in the Middle East, where the U.S. military's involvement has drawn widespread criticism from both sides of the aisle. The implications for U.S.-Iran relations could be profound as this resolution now becomes law. Observers note that the shift in congressional authority over military action may lead to a reevaluation of U.S. foreign policy in the region, emphasizing diplomacy over military intervention. The resolution could pave the way for renewed negotiations with Iran, moving away from a confrontational stance. As Congress seeks to reassert its role in matters of war, the administration's next steps will be crucial in shaping the future of U.S. Iran relations and regional stability. The coming weeks will reveal whether diplomatic channels will gain traction. Thank you for watching today's news recap. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.